foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem, Makakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, pushing this word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim scattered through the four corners of the globe, pushing the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim that be like unto the speckled bird. And I say shalom to you Akim out there. And this is another quick sit-down lesson on September 21st, 2022 at 10:26 p.m. Central Standard Time on this Wednesday night through the Spirit Power of Wrestling Mercy at the Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem, Makakadash. And this is from pbs.org, World News, on September 21st, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Of this news article that was posted, and the highlight of this news article, and it reads from pbs.org. It says Putin doubles down on the war in Ukraine, calls up 300,000 Russian troops to escalate conflict.
As we have reported, Russia's President Vladimir Putin doubled down on his war in Ukraine, ordering Russia's first mobilization since World War II, calling up hundreds of thousands of reserves and retired fighters. He said more manpower is needed to win a war, not just against Ukraine, but against its Western backers. Amna Navaz has more.
That's right, Judy. The call-up of Russia's 300,000 reservists, a referendum in Russian-occupied regions of Ukraine on joining Russia, and a stark warning from Vladimir Putin to the West that he is not bluffing when he talks about being ready to use nuclear weapons. It has been an eventful, foreboding day. So to understand what all of this means at this juncture in the war, both on the battlefield and in Russia, we turn to Natalia Bugayova, Russia Fellow at the Institute for the Study of War and author of the book, How We Got Here with Russia, The Kremlin's Worldview. Natalia, welcome to the NewsHour. Thank you for being here. So people are looking at this decision, Putin's order, a partial mobilization order, and calling it an act of desperation. What do you think? Do you see it that way?
Let's be clear. The reason why Vladimir Putin has made the decision is because Russian forces are not accomplishing their objectives in Ukraine. Putin has invaded Ukraine in February with insufficient force, which he has then exhausted at pursuit of very limited gains. His efforts to replenish that force through other means, short of full mobilizations, have not produced the outcome he has expected. So this is his way to reconcile the gap between his unchanged intent to control all Ukraine and Russia's rapidly degrading capability to do so.
Who are these reservists, though? What do we know about them and their skill level, and what kind of a difference could they make in the war?
Yes, I think the impact of this decision will not help Putin reconcile the gap between the intent and capability. We will know the full impact of this decision in months to come, but I think Russia will face a number of challenges in integrating these forces. The first one is quantity. I think desertion will be an issue. We know that many Russians support the war rhetorically, but they're not willing to fight in it. Additionally, I think Russians will face challenges in equipping, integrating these forces, training them, and also capacity to deploy them, which requires officer cadre and increasingly diminishing resource in the Russian military. I think equipment is also going to be a challenge. Russia has used some of its best forces and equipment already in this fight, and the shortcomings of Russia's defense industrial base are increasingly a problem. And as long as the West keeps and expands the export control on electronics, equipping Russian forces and reproducing advanced capabilities.
So yeah, I'm not gonna play all the rest of that video because I believe it's like 6 or 7 minutes long. So continuing on with the reading. So yeah, as it was reported, President Vladimir Putin made this announcement about calling up 300,000 Russian troops in a potential draft of troops of reserve troops as well too. As the war in Ukraine continues on, and he continued to send warnings to Russia. I mean, as he sent warnings to the West, which can be countries that's allied with the United States and Western countries as well too. He was sending that strong signal to them, because the United States, they definitely on top of that list, because the United States continue to fund Ukraine, in the war. They fund them. I mean, a lot of military assistance aid with over 20 to 30 plus $billion in military aid assistance to help Ukraine and continue to support Ukraine with the Russia-Ukraine war that's going on now. You got President Vladimir Putin calls up after he did mobilization of areas in Ukraine, and now he's calling up 300 troops of reserve troops to continue the escalation in the Russia-Ukraine war. And this is the book of Isaiah chapter 13 verse 17, and that goes Putin sent that warning to the Western countries along with the United States as well too. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 13 verse 7. Behold, I will stir up the Medes, which is the Russians, against them, which is Babylon the Great. They shall not regard silver, and for gold they shall not delight in it. Right. Much as much as the United States funds Ukraine with all that military money and all that military assistance, that's why, Russia is not going to regard their silver or gold. They're not going to consider that, because how about Shemal Shah is stirring up the Medes of the Russians, And Magog, you can read that in the book, Gog and Magog, which is in the book of Ezekiel, 38th chapter, first verse all the way into verse 7, And this is the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 12. Salaki. Joel chapter 3, verse 9. This is the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 9. Proclaim ye this amongst the Gentiles, which is the other nations. Prepare war, wake up the mighty man. As I did a video not too long ago about a border confrontation between I believe Serbia and Kosovo, and they called up about additional 1,000 troops for training. So you got tensions going on with that. And then you got these nations been increasingly doing these military exercise drills. That's in that preparation for that Revelations 11 and 14. Second woe is past, behold, the third woe coming quickly. And you still got continuing proxy wars, clash wars, commotions of wars between the nations and different kingdoms as well too. Joel 3 and 9, proclaim ye this amongst the Gentiles, prepare war. That's what we're seeing right now. These nations are gearing up, preparing for war. With the ongoing war going on between the nations, even though some of them might have ceasefires, trust agreements, even though that's going to snap out of that and get back into that clashes and wars between the nations and different kingdoms as well too. Prepare war, wake up the mighty man. That's what we're seeing. Yahweh Shemel Shai is waking up the mighty men of these nations and gearing up, preparing for war. That's why you've been seeing non-stop training and exercises and ground troop trainings and firing missiles. What these nations been increasingly been doing, for the past 2 years, and it's only going to increase. Let all the men of war draw near and let them come up. Joel 3:10, beat your plowshares and the swords and the plenty hooks and the spears, and let the weak say I am strong, right? Got these other nations rising up as well too. Like the scripture says, let the weak say I am strong, You got all the nations like China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and many more countries, They rising up, These nations are gearing up, preparing for war, and that's what we are seeing, As Vladimir Putin calls up 300,000 reserve troops, armed troops, in that region, so they can gain more momentum, I believe, according to the reports, we'll know if that's true or not. They might have lost some areas, lost some gain of some areas in Ukraine. With the current Ukraine-Russian war continues going on, which is going to continue to increase and intensify. You got Vladimir Putin made that announcement day before yesterday, about mobilization of the areas over there in Ukraine. That's why he's calling up 300,000 troops in that region, And he's sending warnings to the West, which is the Western countries and the United States. And I brought out that Isaiah 13:12, I believe. Yahweh Shemel Shai is going to stir up the Medes. They should not stir up the Medes against them. That's against the daughter of Babylon, He's going to stir up the Medes against them. And that's what we're seeing as President Vladimir Putin send those message warnings to those nations as well too. And he's sending a warning to NATO as well too, NATO and the EU countries, But mostly NATO and Western countries, he's sending that message, that clear, strong message too, So they're not going to regard their gold or silver of Babylon the Great, They sending that warning to Babylon the Great, modern day Babylon, and they sending the warning to the Western countries as well too, because Yahweh Shemel Shai is stirring up those needs. It's going to continue to increase between the nations and different kingdoms as well too. As you read that in Matthew 24:6, wars and rumors of wars increasingly. Matthew 24:7, reference scripture. Nations rising up against nations, kingdom against kingdoms as well too, So with that, hopefully this quick sit-down lesson was edifying for in the news on September 21st, 2022, on this Wednesday night at 10:39 p.m. Central Standard Time. And so with that, I would like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Wakakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, preaching His word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through 4 corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, that be like unto the speckled bird, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And until next time, I will say shalom and a ball.